Perfect. All right. Thank you everyone for coming today. And as usual, before we begin, we do want to go through a few chapter updates. So for those of you who are new on the call, as the EDPA Northwest chapter, we are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance the interests of members engaged in the design, production, and service of exhibits, events, and experiential environments. And if you don't know me, I'm Emma Kristen, and I want to give a shout out to the rest of our amazing board members. We have Taylor Freckleton at Fusion Imaging, Anna Rembold at MedEvent, Cindy McIlvaney at RS Displays, Mel White at Classic Exhibits, Nicole Klein at Exhibit Expressions, Jenny Cohn at Condit, and Stan Bender at City Graphic Solutions. And we also need to thank our supportive sponsors, Aluvision, B Matrix, and CSI. If it weren't for their kind financial contributions, we would not be able to provide you with these beneficial events. And before we jump into it, I want to highlight a few additional events we have coming up. So on April 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will be at the Las Vegas City National Arena supporting the Chapter Face-Off Hockey Tournament. This is during EMS, so we hope to see you there. On May 21st at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Jim Worm will be joining us to discuss the state of the labor industry. On June 4th at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, we'll be hosting a networking happy hour in Denver, Colorado. And in July, we have not finalized this event, but we will be hosting another online webinar about office productivity. And then before I jump into September, we actually had a board meeting this morning, and I think we're going to have a really fun surprise event coming to you in August. So stay tuned for that. But then, of course, we would love for you to join us on September 11th at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time for the Northwest versus Texas Trivia. And one of our commitments this year is to host a webinar every other month. So if there's a specific topic that you would like to discuss, please let us know. And with that, I would like to introduce you to Katina Zippe, the creative director at Classic Exhibits, and she was among the first cohorts to graduate with an MA in exhibition design from FIT. She views three-dimensional experiences as the most impactful art form and enjoys turning event spaces into large-scale sculptures that serve a functional purpose. Katina and the team she directs consistently deliver award-winning designs to their clients. From 2014 to 2022, Katina was the director of the nonprofit Women in Exhibitions. Under her leadership, Katina turned simple annual meetings into well-attended events with high production quality. She created a mentorship program, built a large base of financial sponsors, and led numerous networking and educational Zoom events. Upon stepping down, she established a board of directors to continue that important work. In 2021, she joined the National Board of Directors for EDPA, where she focuses on building partnerships between the experiential design industry and academic institutions. In 2023, she joined the FIT EED Advisory Board. And outside the exhibit industry, Katina is a past president and current board of directors member for the nonprofit Court Support for Families in Greensboro, North Carolina, providing resources to help families in crisis. And to top it off, Katina won EDPA's Designer of the Year Award and Future Leader Award in 2020 and FIT's Star Award in 2022. So thank you, Katina, for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure I told you you could edit that down, but thank you for all of that.
Hey, we got to give a little shout out. You work hard.
Fun information. Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. I have a presentation today for the future workforce. So the future workforce is a committee within the EDPA board. And it is all about how do we tackle this problem of, as as we go along with our industry, we're noticing that a lot of people are retiring. A lot of people left the industry during COVID, and we need to replenish some of those positions still. How do we ensure that we have a good pipeline of talent coming into our industry going forward? So we put together this playbook based on largely on information that we got by talking to you, the EDPA members. There was a survey that went out in early 2023, and there was like a pretty decent reply. You know, there was 42 EDPA member companies that responded. And of those survey respondents, 22 said they were currently working with at least one academic or trade school. 20 of the companies said they had no current involvement, but they wanted to know how to get started. So I actually talked in person to almost every single one of those 22 companies that were currently working with at least one school, because I really wanted to understand better how those relationships worked and what was working and what wasn't working. And through that, I learned so many valuable things. And I thought, you know what, the rest of EDPA needs to know this information, because nobody wants to make mistakes that someone else has already made and learned from. Let's all learn from the mistakes other people have made, or from the best practices that other people have done. Let's see what they've done so that we can do, you know, we can adapt and be flexible and do similar things that are effective. So, okay. So what are our challenges? A lot of companies within our industry are understaffed. We've got the aging workforce, people slated to retire. We've got, we lost employees during COVID, as I mentioned, and there's not enough qualified applicants. There's also this issue in our country right now where there's a shortage of workers, people who are willing to work and do all types of jobs. So we are not the only ones who are going after qualified workers. There's a lot of other industries, a lot of other jobs, a lot of other opportunities. It's really a market for the workers. They have their pick of jobs. So how do we get those people, right? Now, my committee in particular, within the Future Workforce broader committee, there's 3 different committees, and mine in particular is working to develop academic partnerships, specifically with schools, academic schools or trade schools. And there's 2 primary reasons why we want to do this. Advocacy. You know, we noticed during COVID that we were so unknown that it caused us actual problems and financial problems, political problems. We were harmed because we were not acknowledged and people didn't know about us. So by forging these partnerships with academic institutions, we actually are spreading the word about our industry. So there's an advocacy aspect, and then there's access as well. We're building a pipeline. We're creating these strong relationships with schools where when it's time for those students to graduate, we have access to them to hire. Okay, so let's see. There are a lot of different ways that this can go. Let's say there's, you know, roughly just to put a round number on it, there's what, like 1 million different schools in the United States. You know, we have high schools that sometimes have programs that are preparing students for jobs that would be in our industry. There's there's trade schools, there's colleges, there's universities. How do we narrow it down? How do we pick the right schools to get involved with? Now, building a partnership is a lot like dating. Okay, so we need to get to know each other. And again, all this information is coming directly from what worked with other EDPA companies that have built really effective relationships with schools. Okay, so what is really important when you're looking at like which schools to get involved with. There has to be effort and commitment on both sides. So there has to be someone from your company, whether it's you, whether it's someone else, or from your chapter, for example. Maybe it's not your company, but it's your chapter that's looking to build a relationship. And there has to be commitment from a faculty member. If you don't have both of those things and people who are willing to really put some time and effort in, then the relationship is going to fall apart. So this whole playbook is available to you guys. You can see there's more detail in here that I'm not going to read every single word of during this presentation. But I do want to point out here over on the right side of the slide, red flags, schools to avoid. Some schools require a really large monetary gift to engage with their students. And I don't necessarily tell you that up front. That's not going to necessarily be something they say at a meeting. But when it does come up, just know that it's not always a deal breaker, but it can be a red flag, because it's often larger schools that have that sort of stipulation in place. A lot of times they've already had a lot of engagement from perhaps other industries or companies that really put a lot of money into that program. So they've already got a lot of relationships going, and you're going to be one of many, right? Institutions that have too much red tape, it's too hard to work with them. It's too hard to get through and get into their classrooms. If the faculty engagement is really low and they're not really committed to the relationship, saturated interest from other sources. So those are sort of red flags. If you're trying to get in with a school, but it's like a really big, well-known school and they're just kind of not really responding, you might want to look for a different school to work with. For instance, here's a really good way to get into some schools. If it's your alma mater, you already have a relationship with faculty there, or maybe it's your kid's school, or maybe it's the alma mater of one of your star employees. I have that listed first because it really is probably the best way to get into a school and have like really successful interactions. Schools, yes. Schools in your area. Close proximity makes it easy to engage consistently. Students who have established the community and connections in one location are motivated to stay in that area. You should, okay, let me back up for a second. As a company or as a chapter, because we've talked about how more recently, some of you might not be aware of this. More recently, the future workforce committees have talked about how do we start implementing a lot of these things that we've learned. And we are wanting to have a lot of chapter involvement. So for instance, this is the Northwest chapter call. So let's just talk about the Northwest chapter. Why not? What you can do is think about what your needs are. Now, as chapter, for example, you're not close to a school like Bemidji or FIT that is teaching specifically for our industry, right? So you might be having difficulty getting students from those schools to move to the Northwest to come work for you. Whereas companies that are really close to those schools, they have such good access to those potential employees, to that pipeline of talent, right? So you may be feeling like, hey, it's hard for us to get designers to come work at our companies here in the Northwest. Well, that's a huge clue. Why don't you, that now, knowing that you have a need for designers, you have difficulty hiring designers, you need a pipeline, right? Look for the schools in your area that teach those important skills that the designers in our industry need. Industrial design is a good program. Graphic design, there's a lot of different design programs that can teach similar skills or that maybe have an exhibit design emphasis. That's a good school to target, right? Almost every single company that I spoke to, of those 22 schools or 22 companies that I reached out to, almost every single one listed labor as their number 1 need. I know labor is in a huge shortage right now. So with that being the case, I'm just going to guess, but I think there's a pretty good chance that you would say we need more labor. We need shop labor. We need labor to help set up exhibits at the show halls. Well, then you want to start looking specifically at trade schools, and there's a few ways to sort of tackle those specific issues, right? Again, like I mentioned, the larger schools that are really well-known and famous, they can be harder to get your foot in the door, but smaller, less well-known schools often have a lot less red tape and are eager to facilitate relationships with you, and learn about our industry and how to get their students more involved. Okay, so smaller schools. There's one person in particular that I had that conversation with. You know, they were from a little bit more of a rural area, not a big city. They had a small exhibit house, and they were like, "We're so close to this one really great school. It's such a great school. Everybody knows about it. It's, you know, it's famous. They do great. They turn out great great graduates in something like engineering or something like that. But we just can't seem to build that relationship." I was like, well, you know, start looking at some of those smaller schools in your area. They're not going to be getting as saturated with interest from all these big companies who are throwing money at them hand over fist. And so you're going to have a lot better success looking at those smaller schools. Establish contact. So this is okay. There's about 3 different levels of engagement that you can have with a school. The first one is sort of introductory. You're trying to just establish contact, get your foot in the door. You can do that by calling the Career Center or establishing contact with like a professor or a career counselor or just someone specifically you need to make contact with, right? Participate in career fairs. That's a real easy way to get access to students. You can be a guest speaker for a specific class or larger group. And we have resources from the future workforce committees. Well, we have like a really well put together, a well-designed presentation that talks about EDPA as a whole, and it's able to be adjusted per what type of group you're talking to. Hey, I forgot at the beginning to mention, if anyone has any questions as we're going along, please feel free to throw your question up in the chat, and Emma will interrupt me and make sure I answer your question. Okay, other easy ways to just start getting involved: reviewing student portfolios, mentoring a student, offering a scholarship to students. You know, it's not as involved. It's a little bit more like of a one transaction type of a situation, but that is not to say that these are not very successful and ways to establish contact with students. There are some schools where the contact can't really go farther than this level. You know, that there's not a professor who's really willing to get engaged and involved with EDPA. And so, you know, we can glean lots of student contact by doing these types of activities. And so there's nothing wrong with staying at this level if that's as far as it needs to go with a specific school. And if you're getting good contacts through it, perfect. It's all good. It's all gravy. But if you've already been doing this with a school and it is going well and you're getting good contact with faculty and the students are really engaged, maybe you've hired a couple of their students already, well, next you can move up to level 2. You can increase that connection, right? So with level 2 type of engagements, you can do project-based assignments where the school actually invites you in. You can help teach a course or direct a course where the students are doing something very specific to what our industry does, and you're able to really impart more knowledge to them over the course of a semester as opposed to just one presentation, one and done, right? You can host a tour of your facility for the students. You can invite students to job shadow at your company. sponsor students to attend an event or faculty members to attend an event. Tours of various kinds at show halls we've done multiple variations of those types of things. Hire interns, join the advisory board at the school to help guide curriculum. Right, so there are a lot of different ways to increase that connection where you are much more involved and you have much stronger faculty engagement. Now, when you get to past that point, there is the opportunity for those schools to join the ranks of the Bemidji and FIT, where those are under a category called university affiliated schools with EDPA. And there are some more requirements. If a school wants to get to that level, there's more. Let me see if my next thing. Oh, nope. Okay, just going to stay here because on the very right-hand side of the screen, this is what I'm talking about right now. So for EDPA affiliated schools, there are some requirements that we do need a professor or leader from that school who's willing to come and be a part of events such as EDPA Access, Exhibitor Live fairly consistently. We need them to share their curriculum and be willing to lobby for modifications over time. And we know that's not a quick or easy process because schools have a whole bureaucracy. There's always red tape. The school system is very different from a business. Just the way it functions is there's a lot of process that they have to go through and steps they have to go through to make changes. And we also require them to be interested in our industry, meet with subject matter experts, and, really just become a part of our industry is what happens. So that's not easy. That's not an easy level to get to. So again, level 1, which was on the last slide, the very basic engagements of mentoring a student or going to a career fair, being a guest speaker, reviewing their portfolios, those types of things, those one and done type of things, those are easy, those are positive. Doing these more involved things, you're probably going to get even better results as far as getting the high quality graduates to come work for you. The more you have contact, the more likely you are to be able to assess which students are the most ideal to join your team, and also to make a better impression on those students so that when they graduate, they really want to come work for you. But both of these are really positive, and you don't necessarily have to get a school all the way across the finish line to university affiliations in order to have like very, very seriously wonderful results. Okay. All right. Now, even for schools that are already past the finish line, even let's just say FIT, for instance, that's my alma mater. I'm now on the advisory board. There's still room for improvement. There's always a need to look and see, like, are the engagements we're having with that school still working? What can we do better? How can we increase our positive results? I brought to the table the idea to have some recent FIT graduates talk to the newest class of FIT students, because I thought that they weren't getting enough of direct information about our industry. And I thought, you know what, the students who are doing this work now, who just came out of that program, they're the ideal people to talk to the new class up and coming and convince them of, how wonderful these opportunities are. So there's always different ways to look at the information, to look at what's been happening, and to increase your positive results. Also, I would encourage you to look at local government incentives. Several of the companies I talked to just raved about these opportunities, and it is very specific to different regions, different cities or states or you're going to have to look at your specific area and see what's available. But there are ways that there's government programs in quite a few areas that will pay for part or at least partial of new employee salaries, such as if you're hiring a student or a graduate right out of school and they need a lot of training because they haven't had a job before or haven't worked in this industry before. There's a lot of government programs that will subsidize that hire for you for at least a period of time, where that's going to significantly reduce your expenditure and help you to be able to offer something to that graduate. Okay. All right. There was a lot of things that came up during the course of the last year that we just felt were really important issues to address. So now there's like just there's about 4 pages of appendix here at the back of the playbook. All right. So generations develop shared characteristics based on the social issues and technology available as you developed. So there's all these generations in play in the workforce right now. We can't paint everyone from a certain generation with the same brush. Each person is an individual. However, some characteristics are common, and these are there's established solutions to bridge the gap between generations. So just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer. Okay, so here's some known challenges when recruiting from colleges, universities, trade, or high schools. Okay, the challenge is they want to have a clear plan for growth. Solution, they need to see examples of longer term opportunities from those in their industry from 20 years down the same career path, concrete examples of how to succeed. Right, so they just need to see examples. Maybe it's a person at in your company that you can show them, like, this is how they did it, but they want to see those examples of longer term opportunities. A lot of younger people are looking for work to meet their social needs, like friendship. Sometimes they just want to talk, and like it's almost like feels like a substitute for counseling. So what a solution for that is to provide a lot of evaluations and feedback, especially during their first 6 months. Ask questions like, what do you want? What are we doing or not doing well? And allow social interaction that serves the team building and productivity between departments. A lot of them want to work an 8 to 5 schedule, especially with the younger generation coming up right now. They really want to have work-life balance. They don't want to work all hours of the day and night, right? So it's important to keep communication open, stay on the same page about what your expectations are. And if there's going to be some long hours, night or weekend work, you just got to set those expectations up front so it's not a surprise. Okay, I'm not necessarily going to go through all of these, but these are the types of things that came up a lot. Oops. Okay, Appendix 1. Appendix 2, recruiting experienced employees. Use your employees' connections. Okay, I almost wanted to start the presentation with this because a lot of people are like, okay, schools, cool, but like I need employees now. Like, how do I find people right now? School, like working with schools, cool, but like that's going to take years. They have to graduate, then I have to train them. Well, if you need some new employees right now, this is my best advice to you from the interviews that I did with EDP companies. So use your employees' connections. They know your company culture and can make good suggestions. They have friends, they have family, they know what is needed, and they can make good assessments of what people will be a good fit that they already know in their circle. Offer a financial incentive to them as well. If their recruit stays at least 6 months, this has been like super, super effective, you guys. So if you're looking for employees and you need them soon, offer your current employees a financial incentive. I know, sounds a little like, oh, I have to pay for this, but listen, if they find you a good employee and they're going to last at least 6 months, it's so much cheaper than going through like a recruiting agency where you aren't sure what you're going to get. Okay, for labor and trade jobs, There's some unconventional sources. We're working right now. I just attended the Matthews committee, Matthew Little, who is the committee chair for the labor and trades portion of the Future Workforce Committee. Yesterday, they're actively working on developing programs with disabled veterans or just people transitioning out of the military, you know, to see how they can develop, just transition into our industry, give them some training so they know what to do, and also rehabilitated ex-offenders. A lot of them are high quality workers and need to, and it's difficult for them to get jobs. So they are looking and motivated. Firemen, other career sites beyond the standard LinkedIn and Indeed. Okay, what's next for Future Workforce? We're still growing. Like, as you could probably tell from this presentation, a lot of things we're still learning. We're still figuring out how to get better. I anticipate that as we grow, as we work with more and more schools, we're going to develop more resources to help you guys work with schools and trade schools better. But we're also going to learn new strategies. And technology keeps evolving. So there's going to be things that have to adjust and evolve over time, right? So I am, let's see, I think that's my last page. Oh, these are contributors and us. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. It's always easier when I can see all your faces. But that is just like a broad overview of the work we did and the things that we learned. And there are a lot of EDPA companies. I was surprised to learn how many EDPA companies there were that are working with not just one school or trade school, but a whole portfolio, like as many as 10. Some of the larger companies are just doing this work like it's their HR job, right? Because it is. And they're having really good success, and they are not having as many issues with finding people when they need them because they have those established relationships. So there's definitely some solid results behind that research. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to also, as you guys go out there and do make established contact, my whole committee is very committed to developing the resources that you need. So if you need things and you're like, well, look, now I'm doing a career fair, but the type of resources that you're offering me for this career fair are not optimal. These are not what the students want to have or see. Well, tell us, we are absolutely looking to make your endeavors as effective as possible. So, did any questions come through the chat, Emma, or?
No, there's no questions in the chat, but on that resources topic that you're talking about, what resources do we have available now? And I know like we have the resources that we've been using for the chapters. Is that something that individual companies can use? And I know you're saying like request the resources that they may need, but is there anything that we currently have to start with?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a really beautifully designed EDPA presentation. So if you're going into a classroom situation, whether it's for a design school or a project management business type of school or detailing or anything really, you can use this presentation and edit it to match your needs. And that is available. I would suggest making Gina Picaro your contact because she, like I mentioned, there's 3 different subcommittees. I do academic partner development. Matthew Little does labor and trades. Gina Picaro is the 3rd leg of our subcommittee group, and she develops content. So she really has all of that kind of at her fingertips to distribute. So we have presentation, we have a really great resource for people who want to go to trade schools. We have kits that include banner stands, table throws, giveaways, things like that. And I think there's a couple different levels of kits. So depending on what kind of trade school or what kind of career fair you're going to, you might want to use a different type of kit. And so we have those options available that you can borrow and then send back. And drawing a blank at the moment about, we have great, one of my favorite things that we've developed over the last year are the salary sheet. This is a huge draw for our industry, you guys, like
hey, can you hear the music? This is a rave.
Okay.
I don't know what that was, but I kicked them out, you guys.
Is that your friend, Emma?
Not my friend. Sorry. But hey, it looked like it's a classroom. I don't know.
Right. They wanted to learn about future workforce. The salary sheet is a huge seller. So like if you're going to a career fair or if you're going to talk to students in a classroom situation and they're like, okay, cool, your industry looks interesting, but like show them the salary sheet, because we put a lot of time and effort into putting this salary sheet together, because our industry does have good paying jobs. So, we've had people even say they take this to the career fair and maybe there's even parents walking around with the students and the parents are looking at this salary sheet like, dang, this looks pretty good. I don't even make that much. Like, can I join your industry? But it's a huge motivator, because a lot of kids are like, am I going to go to college and get into debt, and how am I going to pay that off? And like there's a lot of like questions, and financial stability is very important. So to be able to give them a realistic idea, I mean, that is a huge selling point for our industry, to be honest, because we do tend to have higher salaries than a lot of other industries. And so it's very appealing to a lot of the up and coming graduates.
And I mean, I have a whole bunch of questions, but if anybody else has any, chime in too. Otherwise, I'll keep going down the roster. Oh, okay. Chris, go ahead.
I just wanted to take a minute, ladies, and say, I'm just, I've been sort of watching all of this from the beginning, and you've done a great job here. For those of you that are listening for the first time that may not know, but I'm sure you're feeling the pinch on the need to rehire at your company and where the talent is and the quality of the talent. There's a lot of things that have been happening here simultaneously. We have been out doing shows like the ASTA show, talking with college or high school advisors and what we used to call guidance counselors, and we're learning the right way to approach schools and get access to young people. Companies and EDPA has been doing job fairs. We've really learned a ton about the pay-to-play game there. For example, we can go to the Williamson College of the Trades and pay $600 for a space, and we'll get 3 volunteers from the Northeast region to go staff that. There'll be another college that will ask, how do we have access? And they'll want a $10,000 scholarship just to get access to their students. So a lot of what we've done in the early days, guys, is just learn really who we should be talking to. And remember, EDPA is just 100, other than our fearless leader with Dasher Lowe, we're a volunteer organization. And then I look at the 4 workforce committees, the things you guys have created, the tools that are now giving any EDPA member that wants to go out locally and engage either a job fair or at a school or a trade school or a high school or whatever. We've got the We Have a Problem video. We've got the case study one-sheeters. I love the salary sheet you talked about. That's a huge leave behind piece so people can see what they can make. You can schedule and reserve a banner stand or table cover if you need, and if you want that bigger EDPA presence. There's the member map, which we didn't talk about, but I love that, right? So we can show people these are all the places that you can get a job in this industry.
Right.
And
well, the member map is still under development. So that's
I know it is, but it's a very exciting thing to see.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and then of course there's the playbook where all this stuff lives. So I just can't say enough about how far we've come, where, we are definitely taking a launch and learn approach in a lot of things, but we've also learned a lot about what the foundational deliverables that we need to create. And I want to compliment you guys for doing that. The workforce problem is not going to be fixed overnight. This will be a generational problem. Today, we have 11.5 million jobs available in the United States open today. There are 10.1 million individuals between the age of 16 and 64 that are capable of working that do not want to work. They just prefer to stay home. So, I mean, there's an enormous gap. We had the aging problem of which we were aware of. We were kind of aging out on workers on the show floor. Average age of a I&D person is 58 years old. Yeah. Similar demographics in backroom shops, but we still need accounting people and salespeople, project managers, and all that. So, you guys are. I know sometimes it feels like if I'm listening for the first time, you go, yeah, "What do you have pictures of your successes or how many people you've hired?" Those stories are coming in. They're not at the volume we know they will be. What we've learned in this first year, 18 months, is we really have to put together the infrastructure and the tools. So anyway, I just wanted to say a little perspective and thank you, this entire committee, for what you guys are doing and all the member companies that are contributing what they're doing now that's working and sharing and how they're being successful, so we can mimic that. So that said,
agree. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. And I really, after talking with so many people, and like that was only a small sampling of the people in EDPA and our industry, right? That even responded to the survey so that I could glean information from them. There were a lot of things that came up repeatedly. So I'm like, okay, this is definitely a success strategy. But upon talking to so many people, I really feel like our biggest success route is going to be supporting people who've already established contact and are, maybe what they've been doing hasn't been working as well as they would like. And so we can give you some suggested strategies to try, different angles to come at it from, because maybe you didn't know, that there was this huge list of different ways to engage with schools. You were just trying one. You're like, I keep going to their career fair and I'm not getting traction. Well, here's some other things you can try. My committee is, and Gina and Matthew, all of us combined, we cannot do all of the work. Like I said, there's that round number of 1 million schools, right, in our country. We can't do all the work. We don't need to make contact with every single one of those schools. We just need to make really strategic partnerships. What works really well, just to give you a case study too, is if you have made contact with a school and you've had some measure of success working with them, bring us in to support you, to help you, to provide resources, and let us help you take that relationship to the next level. We just had a really great breakthrough with an EDPA company who came to us and said, hey, look, I've been working with this really well-known design school in the Southeast, and I've been hiring their graduates, 1 or 2 of their graduates every year for the last 20 years. And so that person already established a relationship with the school. It's in the Southeast, so it's a different region than Bemidji or FIT. So it's targeting a new area where there's tons of exhibit houses and companies in Atlanta and Orlando, in that Southeast region. And the school already is aware of EDPA. They've already had some success, but they even told me on our call, maybe only 1/3 of our design students are aware that exhibit design is an option. So, you're getting a few graduates to come into your industry, but I was like, well, okay, how do we expand that? Let's make sure all of their students, instead of 1/3, know about this opportunity, because if more of them know about it, more of them are going to want to enter it. We're going to be providing them a lot of support. Now, when I asked them the question about financial commitment to work with them, it was a little bit of like whoa, let's pull on the reins a little bit, because in order to go into one of their classes and do like a semester long project with them, they need a $30,000 investment. And I was like, Ooh, I don't know about that. Not only is it one of our major red flags, but like, I don't know which EDPA company is going to be like, yeah, $30,000. But that, it's not like, oh, that, we can't work with you now, because they were like, you know what, it's okay if you don't do those type of projects. They're like, our students need internships. We need, they listed off like 4 or 5 different things that they felt like we could offer, because I gave them the list of things that we do offer, and have had success offering. And they were like, we really need internships. We want you to come critique our student project portfolios. We have a big presentation. Please come, So there are still ways to work. I have a feeling that's successful.
Might have lost her.
We got her frozen out.
Yeah.
No, I would just add, that part of the future workforce efforts are going to be identifying more and more opportunities, and more schools. So anybody that's on the phone that's interested in getting involved, reach out to Katina, reach out to myself. We're going to need more help as we're connecting with more schools and more students, and we're going to need more volunteers. So there's a huge opportunity. If you're interested in that, definitely engage with us. We can use the help.
Yeah, and Dasher, maybe you or Chris or anybody else on the call that's involved in the future workforce knows, but I had heard once that there was a job posting online, like where we could post in our industry the jobs that we're hiring for, and then a place where the students could also like put their resume if they were looking for a job. Do you know if that's still?
Yeah, we're working on it. We don't have it live yet. We're working on it. It's actually something we're doing as part of the new industry collective. So that's something that we're hoping to have in place here in the next month or two, because we're going to be at the Skills USA competition as part of the collective, with a booth there, and we want to make sure that that's up and running. So we should have something in the next couple months, and then we'll announce it out to the group where students are going to share their information, and then the EDPA members will be able to go on and access student information and hopefully make a connection there.
Awesome. And then I just have one other random question. I don't know why I haven't thought about this over the years either, but we do have these established relationships with, BSU, FIT, and I know, we do things with like Carthage and, there's other schools that we're involved with. Have we ever asked those professors if they know of other professors? Because like they went to school once too, and maybe they're working at another university that we could reach out to, or have we not?
I mean, one of the biggest advocates on the Future Workforce Committee is Satchel from BSU, and he's having conversations with schools like San Diego State, educating them about how to expand their programs. They've got an event planning program, but they don't have designers, they don't have project management like Satchel does, and they're interested in building their program to be more extensive like theirs. So to your point, we've connected Satchel with San Diego State, and they're working on together. And Bonnie's helped us kind of define tiers that Katina's working with the schools and saying, hey, these are the ways to engage with us. There's a tier 1 engagement, there's a tier 2, 3, 4, all the way up to a BSU and an FIT where they're I think a tier 4 or 5. But so all that's been identified, and I think we're learning as we go and adding more elements to it. But that's definitely part of it, of connecting those professionals with each other.
Yeah, I think that's a great path. It looks like Brenna has a question.
Yes. Hi, Emma and Dasher. I'm sorry if I missed this before, but is there a place online that companies should go to see the playbook and download it?
Yeah, it's on EDPA's website, and
Okay.
if you click under I think it's resources. I got to look real quick. Open up on my computer. Under resources, there's a future workforce tab, and yep, that's it. And then within there, you can download the playbook from there.
Perfect.
Just
Found
scroll
it.
down
Thank
a
you so
little.
much.
And I'll also send out an e-blast after this, and a link to the website that can bring you there and download the playbook. And I'll also get the salary sheet in there too, because I don't know if we have that online. Maybe we do or not, but I definitely have it, so I can make sure it's included for everybody, as well as contact information for Katina. But I'll also include, you know, like she had mentioned, Matthew Little and Gina and stuff. And so I'll break out for everybody who to reach out to for what.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry about my internet hiccup there a second ago. But I think the important thing is, like, if you already have contact with a school, keep it going. You know, if it's valuable to you, just let us know how we can help you improve that. We're happy to be here and support everyone and increase those relationships and make them stronger. If you've been too nervous to reach out and start working with a school, hopefully now you see, you know, that there are some really significant ways that you can reduce that sort of unknown through the playbook. Find an alma mater, yours or someone else's, find a school close to you that has programs that are related. I mean, you don't have to be afraid. We're here to help. We can give you anything you need to make those connections.
Yep. And we've got materials to support any of those, you know, conversations. If you get invited to a job fair, you know, we've got table tents, we've got banner stands, we've got 10 by 10 display that's being created. So we've got all kinds of materials to be able to support that and send out to those ready to engage.
Yeah, and like she was saying, you know, if you don't know where to start, just reach out to, you know, anybody a part of the future workforce, but also just your local EDPA chapter, and just touch base with them, have a conversation, because, you know, Katina shared, you know, very few case studies, but there is no one size fits all, and it's an opportunity for us to get creative. So like, have that conversation and we can figure out, you know, like where to get you started. It looked like Leslie maybe had a question. Sorry, your hand went away, Leslie.
I know, because Katina said it when she was talking. So I was going to say something about alumni associations, and she said it. So
I'm glad your question got answered.
Does anyone else have any other questions or comments or, you know, experiences with this? Nothing. All right. Well, thank you, Katina. It was great having you today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited especially about working with the chapters to support you guys, because we do find that the needs are different region by region, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation. And so, you know, I don't have time to research every locale, but you guys know your area. So, you know, tell us what you need and work with us as partners. Every school needs at least one strong partner. So if you end up working with more than one school, you know, you need support, and we're super excited to help you. But it's a big issue, and there needs to be a lot of hands on deck. So that's my closing thought, I guess.
Hey, you're good. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, yeah, thank you everybody for attending. And like I said, I will share all of this information, and this was recorded too. So we'll get that out to everybody, and see you at EMS next week, hopefully.
Thanks, Katina, for
Thank you.
sharing. Emma, thanks for the
Thank you,
Northwest
everyone.
chapter sponsor. This is
Thanks,
great.
Chris.
Thank you for the
Thanks, Dasher. Thanks,
Yeah.
Emma.
Thank you.